document. You just made very clear that the president's priority is to deport those who pose a threat to public safety.
Right.
I know you're familiar with the case in Arizona of the mother of Guadalupe Garcia de Rios. Is she a threat to this country?
I'm going to leave that up to ICE. We don't get involved from the White House to particular cases. That's not. But right, and I understand.
Is she a threat to public safety?
But Hallie, I think the answer is that ICE determined that she had violated the law in a way that was in accordance with this. Again, we've got to get back to this idea that our job, especially here at the White House, isn't to call balls and strikes and say, well, this person only violated part of the law, or let them go on this. If this was any other subject, if this was tax evasion, and we said, well, they really only violated a little bit of, they only cheated on their taxes a little, you wouldn't be saying, hey, should they really be going to prison or should they be getting a fine? At some point, laws are laws. And if people have a problem with a law, whether it's at the local, state, or federal issue, then we should petition our lawmakers and the executive and at that particular branch of government and change it. But our job shouldn't be to figure out, should this individual not have to abide by the law? Should this individual get a pass? If we want to change the law, we've got a very amazing process here in this country to both create and change laws. And so I don't want to comment on the specifics of any one case, because I think that then puts the White House in a position of deciding, who is following the law and who isn't, and who should get a pass. The bottom.
What you just said, right? A prioritization of cases.
No, there's a difference. When you have 13 or 14 million people, they're in the country different. I think it's one thing to say prioritize people who pose a threat to public safety, and go after this individual or that individual or whatever. There's no question that you have to have priorities in anything. What do you do first? What do you do second? What do you do third? And when you're talking about 13, 14, 15, potentially more millions of people in this country, the president needed to give guidance, especially after what they went through in the last administration, where there were so many carve-outs that ICE agents and CBP members had to figure out each individual whether or not they fit in a particular category, and they could adjudicate that case. The president wanted to take the shackles off individuals in these agencies and say, you have a mission, there are laws that need to be followed, you should do your mission and follow the law. And for specific cases, I would refer you to ICE in particular and do that. Hold on. Hallie's on number 2.
13, 14 million number. Where did you get that number?
Glenn, is Hallie's, you please not interrupt her. I'm sure it's...
Do you want to take that now?
No. I think I'm not going to allow you to be interrupted.
So the second question is on the anti-Semitism comments that you referenced from the podium. The president made very clear. You said, though, that he has taken opportunities in the past. Just last week, though, right, he had the opportunities to deliver a message to the American people about anti-Semitism. He made very clear he was not anti-Semitic, and he was, in fact, insulted by that. But as far as a broader message to the American people, he declined to offer one. Is the president comfortable with his obligation as the leader of this country to deliver that kind of broad and forceful message to Americans? And if so, why didn't he do it sooner in the case of these attacks?
Well, I think the idea, Hallie, that he has, and I think there's a point at which he talked literally on election night about uniting this country and making sure that all Americans lift up. And every time there's an instance, it's interesting. I mean, I get a question, is he going to denounce this one? Is he going to denounce this one? At some point, the question's asked and answered. He has stood very forcefully against...
What I'm asking, right?
What are you? I mean,
I'm asking, is he's comfortable with his role as the person who needs to be delivering a broader message?
Well, I think, right, and I think that he is very comfortable and understands that as the leader of the free world, the president of this country, the commander-in-chief, that he has an awesome responsibility to make it very clear where we're going as a country and what our values are, and that he has spoken very forcefully that we don't stand for this kind of behavior, and words, and tolerance, that we are a country that should bring people together, and that we shouldn't tolerate people who are hating on individuals because of their gender, or because of their religion, or the color of their skin, or a variety of other things. But that there's a point at which it's asked and answered. And I think the president has been very clear over and over again, going back through the campaign, the transition now, that's the kind of president that he wants to be. That's the kind of country that he wants to lead. Trey.
Thanks, Sean. Following the DHS memos this morning, the ACLU said the courts won't allow these orders to become a reality. How is the administration preparing for another potential legal battle? And do you have any response to the ACLU?
Well, I think we have done a phenomenal job of working with the various departments, particularly DHS, DOJ, State, and through the White House staff, to make sure that we are well within any concerns that the court might have. And as I mentioned, I think it's important to continue to emphasize, we feel as though the first one did that as well. And we were vindicated several times in the court. We have an issue with the Ninth Circuit, and I think we'll overcome that ultimately on the merits. But in the meantime, a dual track is something that we wanted to pursue to make sure that we do everything we can, as I mentioned before, to keep the country safe. Yeah.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah,
Thank-
sure.
Yeah, thank